So, in our most recent episode of the Wealthy Gone Wild, we have Andrew Tate. As usual, I'm not gonna insert the interview into this video. I'm just gonna drop the link down below. You guys can check it out. I'm gonna give a quick synopsis of the interview that he had and what he spoke on. I'm gonna quickly give you my commentary or perspective and professional opinion. So Andrew Tate was, in the middle of an interview with a gentleman. Seems like they were in the UK, and the gentleman was asking him about his views on home ownership, basically. He's like, asking him basically more like him being anti-property. I guess Andrew Tate had been, recorded many times in the past protesting against, home ownership in most cases. His first perspective on it, Andrew Tate's first perspective on it, was the intangible aspect of home ownership. His argument was that when you own a home versus renting, you lose out on flexibility. So basically, once you sign a contract to pay a mortgage for X amount of years, you're pretty bound to that property. And you're also bound to the whims of the economy and your ability to liquidate that property or rent it out or whatever the case may be if you need to make a life change, which is valid. He made an argument that renting gives you the flexibility to, pretty much up and make changes in a pretty short window of time, which is true. He also got into the monetary aspect, which is more importantly what I want to cover in this video, of home ownership on a standard basis, not working for the everyday common person and only really being beneficial for the rich. So his perspective was basically, in short, paraphrasing of course, was that mathematically in today's time, home ownership does not work out or make mathematical sense as an investment as it did in the 70s and 80s. His argument is like, in the 70s, when home ownership was really starting to be pushed, in those days, it made sense because you can buy a home within a year or two's salary, and that home would appreciate over the course of your lifetime, from $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 at the purchase time to over six figures in value. And at that time, it was a brilliant investment. In today's world, the average home is $300,000 to $400,000 in the United States. Who knows what in the UK? And by the time you pay interest over the course of 30 years, that $300,000 to $400,000 is probably double or potentially more. So the argument for him was the lack of flexibility and the lack of money. Nobody's going to get rich owning their home. Nobody, not the average person especially, is not going to get rich owning a home. He was advocating that only rich people who have the ability to cut a check on the spot and buy a home for cash get the real value out of home ownership. So his argument was like, I'm not against property ownership as an investment. I'm against it for the average Joe Blow as a homeowner. You're chained down, you don't have flexibility, your home can be taken away from you whether it's paid off or not, and the math does not work out. So after hearing Grant Cardone tell us that if you're not making $400,000 a year, you're a loser, and now we have Andrew Tate saying if you're not a multimillionaire, then owning a home is retarded. Basically, I guess we all just need to give up on participating in the economy. Like, why do we even exist? Why live? Like, what's the point? But in all seriousness, again, I like to take these videos really quickly and give context and perspective from a non-toxic point of view and from a financial professional point of view. So I'm going to quickly pivot right now into the validity of his argument and why I still feel like he is overgeneralizing. So it's true, home ownership in today's economy, with today's prices and today's interest rate, is not appealing for everybody, especially those who are not financially well off. If you're not making a significant amount of money and have a certain net worth or a certain financial position where you can afford to still have the flexibility to move around and not need the money from your current primary residence to do so, the equity or cash flow rent from that property to do so, then my debate or my argument as a financial professional who's also in the home lending space is that you just need to be more strategic. I recently dropped a video. At this point in time, it's somewhere in the last few days or a week or so around ADUs, additional dwelling units. This was just one example of how people can take their existing home and leverage it based on the current economic conditions and housing market conditions to turn their primary residence into an asset. It's all about creativity in this economy in today's world. There is no one size fit all or blanket statement description about how to participate in the economy. And this is where I disagree with the Grant Cardones and the Andrew Tates. Not that they're being asses with their comments, because to be honest, they have some significant value in their statements. I already made the point about Grant Cardone with the $400,000 a year comment. I truly believe that his mindset as somebody who didn't come from very much and got to where he is in a window of time he accomplished it, he believes and he knows and he's witnessed it's possible to make so much more. If you're participating properly, you're consistent and you're grinding, you can be much more successful than 6 figures a year. Andrew Tate's perspective is property is wonderful. It appreciates, it has great benefits, but it does not make sense for the average Joe Blow who's making, a barely living wage to go out and chain themselves down to a house, live in that house, do nothing extra, nothing fancy, and just let the house appreciate and hope that, it basically outpaces inflation and outpaces the cost of the home over the duration of the loan, right? That makes sense. That's a fair point. The majority of us are no longer have the luxury that our parents or grandparents had to simply buy a home, get a college degree, buy a home, work a 9 to 5 for 30 years, retire, the house is paid off, we got a fat 401k or pension, and we're good to live out the rest of our golden years. It's not like that anymore. And that's very true. And the concept of buying a home needs to be revolutionized for us as everyday people that aren't mega millionaires that can go write a 6 or 7 figure check to buy a property. The reality of it is you need to get creative as a homeowner. We need to strategically start buying homes. And this is what I'm all about. This is why I want you guys to start exercising the links that I have in the description to start communicating with me on a one-to-one basis. And I'm going to start promoting a program and an opportunity I'll be putting out soon for direct consulting, because home lending is way too transactional. And I dropped a video about this as well in the past. This needs to be strategic. It's the biggest single expense that most of us will ever have. And we need to go about it strategically. Home ownership and property and land and value is always going to be valued. That's not the question. How you buy it and what you do to leverage that property to become more of an asset for you. How do you double or triple the equity? How do you purchase that home in a way where you're not paying as much interest over time? What's your strategy to pay it off? Can you rent it out while you're living there? Can you move and still rent it out? You have to get creative. You have to get creative. And Andrew Tate has a point that I feel as if can be contested if you, as the average Joe Blow or Jane Doe, get creative and apply a different philosophy and strategy to your home buying process. If you go into it looking at the zoning and finding out ways that you can add value, if you can do an ADU, can you use a mixed use commercial use to the property? Hey, do you have land on the property? Can you put that to use? What can you be doing to make your property more valuable beyond its basic appreciation? Because these are the type of moves that will render Andrew Tate's perspective and statements around his home ownership for the non-rich or lower class people invalid. And I want to empower you guys to do that. So this video I want you guys to enjoy the video. It will be linked in the description. I want you to keep the perspective I'm giving as you watch the video and hear his response, because the reality of it is it's just about creativity. The value of real estate is there. You just have to put it to use. So I want you guys to drop down in the comments, or of course, leave a comment. I want you to drop down in the description, check out that video. It's about 20 minutes long, but it's pretty interesting. And then I want you guys to think about this video or even rewatch this video for better context. Thank y'all for tuning in. I appreciate it bringing you this content. It's another crazy, crazy episode of The Wealthy Gone Wild. I want you guys to stay focused, stay in motion. I'll see y'all soon.